In this video, we build a simple cybersecurity tool using Python. You will learn how to ask the internet for information, receive live data, clean it up, handle errors safely. No complicated jargon, just real building. If you want cybersecurity plus Python builds, like, subscribe, comment, OSINT if you are coding along. So now, first we will talk about the project idea. We are building IP intelligence checker. Every device on the internet has an IP address. When a user enters an IP, we send it to a public API. The API sends back information. We display the important parts. We will use this free demo API. We'll use this free demo API, which is ip-api.com. For example, I'm taking this IP, and if you try to look up for it, it will tell you this data. Okay, so we will use this data now. First of all, we'll go in the documentation and then we look up for JSON. And then we can see how it uses the IP, like the format, or you can say syntax. So if you send here 1.1.1 and hit send, it will show you the response in JSON format. So we'll use this as same. And remember, this is for learning purposes only. Now the first step will be creating a basic version of the project. So first of all, we will import requests and we'll import regular expression, which is shorted as RE in Python library. We'll use this in a while. First, we'll take the IP from user saying enter IP address. And then comes URL. URL of the site. Okay, so we'll take this and we'll replace this with the IP. So here we are using printf. So what it will do is it will replace the IP variable content here with this location. And then we create a variable saying response requests dot get URL. So it will make a HTTP get request to the specified URL. And then comes data variable. And we'll be expecting JSON response, and after that we'll finally print the data. Okay, so now what's happening here is request lets Python talk to websites. We ask the user for an API and we send it to the API with this one, and we print whatever comes back using these two lines. Okay, so now if you run it, okay, it's taking a while and it's working now. Okay, so now it's working. So I'll enter this IP only, and if you enter this IP, it will show you the exact content. Status success, country Australia, country code AU, which is shorted for Australia, region QLD, region name Queensland, South Brisbane is city, and that's their zip code, and etc. etc. Okay. You just pulled live data from the internet using Python. Now comes the step 2, clean output plus error handling, because our user or us ourselves may don't want this like all the data, because most of the data is useless to us. For example, I don't wanted the country code, region name, and city and stuff. So what I can do is I can filter them out. Okay, so how we can do it, we'll rewrite our program from scratch. Okay, so first we will create a function called getIpInfo, which will expect a variable called IP, and then we'll use try block saying URL f, and we'll take the address here and IP will be here, and then comes response request.get for the HTTP GET method, response.raise underscore 4 underscore status. Okay, so I mistyped something here. Response, yeah, now it's fixed. And then comes our return response.json. And then comes accept request.acceptions request acception. Okay, yeah. Now we are good to go as E and print error comma E. So it prints the error in a structured way. Okay, so we are getting a error here for some reason. Statement must be separated by new lines. Why we are getting these? Okay, my bad. I forgot to hit enter here. And we are still getting some errors. Statement must be separated by a new line. Okay, I forgot that I used a colon here, my bad. And then we'll say return none. So it doesn't return anything. And then we'll create a variable for the input, enter IP address, then info variable, which will call the function, and then comes our what we wanted to print part. If info, so we are running a for loop here. Status, if the status is success, then print IP, country, city, or and ISP. Then will be here else part, print invalid or private IP address. Okay, so here we'll say country, and here we'll say city, and here we'll say ISP. And we'll first correct this. This is correct, and in here we'll call it like this, info, and filter the country keyword here. And I'm going to copy this for the easier coding, and it will be city and it will be ISP. Okay, so now if we run this code, let's try running it. Okay. Okay, so now let's try running it again. And if we hit enter after entering the same IP as before, now it's saying the only things we wanted, which was the IP, country, city, and ISP. Instead of printing everything, we now show country, city, ISP. Actually, and if something goes wrong, the program doesn't crash. That's called error handling. This is what real tools do. Now comes the step 3. The library we imported. Now comes the step 3. And we imported this library for the step 3 part, which is input validation. So we will do input validation here. We will create a function called isValidIP, and it will expect an IP variable and we'll create a pattern here. R, the power sign for backward slash D 1 comma 3 slash dot slash D 1 comma 3 again, and then this. So what it will do is it will check for the IP address. If it's correct, it will let it pass it through. Match pattern comma IP. So it's expecting something like this. So if your IP gets like 4 numbers of digits and any octet, it will reject it because that's not a valid IP. Okay, so this was this. And what we need now is, first let's try running it and let's try to enter something like this. Okay, so I think our program is running as intended. Yeah, it said invalid or private IP address. Okay, we just did that already. So this may not work directly. So for that, we will create a function called main. We'll create a main function here, and this will go here, this too. And after this one, we'll add some line. If not is valid underscore IP print invalid IP format. Return. Then comes the info part. Then if info part, and then else one, and in the last we'll call the main function. And for this part we'll indent it. Okay, so now our program looks good to go. Okay, so now let's try entering it. Okay, so let's say I entered this IP. It says invalid IP format. And if I run it again and say 100.100.100.100, it's still saying something like this. But this time the error message changed. Last time it said invalid IP address. This time it said invalid or private IP address. Okay, so now let's see correct one. Okay, my bad. I entered the wrong one again. And now it printed the IP. So our program is ready. Now we have separate functions: input validation, error handling, clean output, organized structure. This is resume-worthy beginner code. And if you want to improve it, you can save results to a file, scan multiple IPs, connect to a real threat intelligence API, turn it into a CLI tool, build a simple graphical user interface, and remember, always use APIs ethically. Respect privacy, rate limits, terms of services. Cybersecurity is about protection. Thank you guys for watching.